am from Iraq. Thank you all for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be presenting to you a poem in the Arabic language named after its author, the poem of Al-Asma'i, plus its backstory. With the irony of its events, the magical setting, and the difficulty in its writing, I think this poem represents a great example for Arabic language and culture, so I'm sure you will enjoy it. But before we begin, I have one important warning. This poem is considered as one of the most confusing poems in the language, so if you memorize it, you are a certified champ. The poem is not recent, it dates back long time ago to the intellectual golden age, back when the second Abbasid Caliph, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, was ruling the Abbasid Empire. That's like 750 AD. So we will be going back 1300 years. But first of all, who was Abu Ja'far? It's not this Ja'far. The actual Abu Ja'far was a prodigy. This guy, besides commissioning the construction of the round city of Baghdad, the capital, he worked to make it the greatest intellectual hub in history. And when he did that, that's when the golden age began. The man didn't mess around. He was known for his devotion to knowledge and science and all of that. But there's one thing people don't talk about as much, and that was his intelligence or cunning. He had a hidden talent. Abu Ja'far was able to memorize any poem, no matter how long, from the first time he would hear it. He also had a boy servant who could recite that same poem after hearing it twice. And he had a girl who could sing it after hearing it for 3 times. Now, how can this go wrong? One day, Abu Ja'far was bored. So he told himself, it's time to promote poetry in the caliphate. A few days after he said that, a competition was announced that said any poet who writes a creative poem will get the weight of the parchment they wrote it on. So this offer in gold. So this offer sounded way too good to be true for the poets, but they said if they write a long poem and they use a lot of paper and parchment to write it, they will get more gold for it. So all of them applied. And they put their hearts and souls into writing the longest poems possible. We go to audition stage. After the royal guard welcomes the participant, he or she would greet the magnificent Abu Ja'far, maybe kiss his hand, and then begin to perform. After the performance, some of these early participants, they were naive. They would take out the papers with them and hand it to the caliph in order to receive the gold. But when one of them did that, that's when the fun part began. Let me play this laugh for you. This is the evil laugh that I prepared. It's not working. Anyways, the dialogue would go the following. Abu Ja'far would say, you don't know the rules of the competition, my son? We say creative, but you plagiarized this poem. The poet would be confused and scared, and he would say, this is my own writing, my lord. Abu Ja'far would say, how come do I know it? And then Abu Ja'far would go on and say the whole thing, exactly, word for word, punctuation for punctuation, stop for stop. And once that happens, the poet would leave in shame because their work apparently is not original. They did that for a while until they produced the second update. Now, Abu Ja'far would say the poem and he would go on the boy. The boy would hear the poem from the poet and from Abu Ja'far. So the boy would recite the poem after Abu Ja'far. And this is like so bad because the poet would hear it from 2 people, even though they literally wrote the poem like last night. But sometimes they make it even worse. There are some situations they really want to destroy someone. So Abu Ja'far would go first, call the boy to recite, and then the girl would come again. The girl heard it from the poet, she heard it from the boy, and she heard it from the poet, from Abu Ja'far and from the boy. So she will also recite it. And of course, they would tell the participant after they recited, like, never write poetry again, your work is trash, you don't belong here, etc. After some months, the poets lost all of their credibility because no common person believed they had original work. All because of this prank. Until our antagonist decided to step up. His name was Al-Asma'i. Al-Asma'i was a statesman. He understood that some plot was going on. So he wrote a poem. It wasn't long, but it had many roles and confusing synonyms. It had illogical transitions that made it so hard to memorize. He then disguised himself with the common Arab attire, and he entered the palace. When he stood in front of the emir, he said, I have an original poem. But Abu Ja'far was so confident that he told him, show me what you got. And that's when Al-Asma'i formed his poem. He said, صوت صفير البلبل هيج قلبي الثمل الماء والزهر معا مع زهر لحظ المقل وأنت يا سيد لي وسيدي ومولى فكم تيمني مزين عقيقلي قطفته من وجنة من لثم ورد الخجل فقال لا 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 لا, لا وقد غدا مهاولي والخوذ مالت طربا من فعل هذا الرجل فولولت ولي يا ويللي فقلت لا تولولي وبين اللؤلؤ لي قالت له حين كذا انهض وجد بالنقل وفتية سقوا لي قهوة كالعسل شممتها بأنفي أزكى من القرنفل في وسط بستان الحلي بالزهر والسرور لي والعود دمدم دملي والطبل طبطب طبلي طبي طب لي والرقص قد طاب لي والسقف سقسق لي شوى وشاه شاع على ورق سفرجلي وغرد القمر يصيح منلا في منلي ولو تراني راكبا على حمار أهزلي يمشي على ثلاثة كمشية العنجلي والناس ترجم جملي بالسوق بالقنقلل والكل كعكع خلفي ومن حويللي لكن مشيت هاربا من خشية العنقل إلى لقاء ملك معظم مبجل يأمر لي بخلعة حمراء كالدمدمل أجر فيها ماشيا مبغددا للديل أنا الأديب الألمعي من حي أرض الموصل نظمت قطعا زخرفت يعجز عنها الأدبل أقول في مطلعها صوت صفير البلبل. Have you heard this one before? Said Al-Asma'i. Abu Ja'far pretends to not hear. He said, do you know this poem, my lord? No, I do not, but I suspect someone who does. Boy, do you know the poem? The boy does not memorize it. How can the boy memorize it when Abu Ja'far himself couldn't memorize it? They call on the girl. The poor girl says, I can't recall anything. It was at this moment that he knew that Abu Ja'far said, this is an original poem. We will reward you for the weight of it in gold. So hand me over the parchment, son, so we can weight them. Watch what Al-Asma'i did. Al-Asma'i said, this is so random, okay? He said, my father inherited me a huge pillar, like a big steel, like as big as this ceiling. And he told them, I inscribed the poem on their ceiling. So I couldn't bring it inside the palace, but my 10 camels are carrying it outside. So they go outside, they weight the pillar turns out to match the gold treasury of the entire empire. So Abu Ja'far said, we can't do that. But Al-Asma'i reminded him that rules are the rules, and that he should be a man of his word. So Abu Ja'far could not complain. As soon as Asma'i was commissioned to receive the money, he was about to leave the scene, but he couldn't contain his laughter, he bursted up. And one of the guards spotted him. Abu Ja'far ordered for them to remove the disguise from his face, and they discovered that indeed it was Al-Asma'i. Abu Ja'far knew who Al-Asma'i was at the time. So he told them, how dare you mess with the imperial affairs like this. But he soon realized it was his act that drove Al-Asma'i to this. Al-Asma'i said, I will return the funds I will not return the funds until you achieve justice for the poets you harassed. And Abu Ja'far replied, you have my word. All the poets were paid reasonably. The money went back to the treasury, and they all lived happily afterwards. And thank you for listening.